Good morning, everybody. All right. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. It is Sunday, October 27th. 11 a.m. I am exhausted. I had to take Mary to the airport this morning and to get up at 5 a.m. So I'm somehow both over-caffeinated and exhausted, but we're doing this. We're doing this. This is what we're doing now. Let's see here. Let me get set up here. All right. Look at that. Where do you get production values like this? Nowhere. The answer is nowhere. Already I'm answering questions. Nowhere. All right. We're just going to jump into it because there's actually, it's not 1,000 questions, but it's a lot. If anyone didn't sneak in a question to the Surveymonkey, you can ask it in the live chat. I am going to warn you right now, not only am I tired, I didn't have a ton of time to actually think about my answers for these. So these will be spontaneous answers. Most of them. Some of them I thought about, but most of them I just didn't have time because I've been busy drawing the next DvsM, DvsM 2001. I'm working on page 3, doing test prints to see how it looks. I'm dialing in characters. It's coming together. I'm happy so far. Also intimidated. Like, it's funny, I flew through, I'm already on page 3. It feels like I just started already on page 3, which kind of feels like, wow, this is flying. This is going great. And then you think about how many pages you have left. And you're like, how am I going to keep this up? But I've done it before. I'll do it again. It's not as easy as you'd think. It's tough. You meet women. You don't know if they like you for you, or is it just about the looks for them? It's not as nice as you might think. Okay, already just, again, knocking out the answers. Let's just get into this. So the questions, I would say about a third, maybe half, were DvsM or comic related. The rest were everything else. I got a lot of questions in certain categories, and I tried to break those out. But we're going to do, since this is a DvsM channel, we're going to do DvsM related questions first. So let's get into it. Is this the window I want? Do I want? No, I think this is probably better, right? Okay. Here we go. Okay, part 1. Now, some of these, oh, by the way, okay. The way the Surveymonkey worked, you could fill in questions, and then there was a field to put your name. If you did not fill in your name, you're anonymous. When I was transcribing these, what's weird about Surveymonkey is it splits that out. So to see who wrote a question, I have to, like, I read the question and go down and match it to a separate section. I might have missed some people. So I apologize if there's a question here that you asked that you wanted to be credited for, and your name isn't on it. It's just because the Surveymonkey results are a little weird to parse. Okay. Will you ever offer DvsM in a digital format? Why are you leaving money on the table? I suspect I know who asked this, and I don't remember if they used their name or not. Doesn't matter. Anyway. Will I ever offer DvsM in a digital format? Yes, with an asterisk. I'm probably, I haven't done it yet, so it's not 100%, but I will probably offer digital for overseas customers, people outside the US. Because shipping is so prohibitive. It is unbelievably expensive to ship a comic to Canada or the UK, or it's crazy. I've done it in the past. Sometimes people have asked me very, very nicely, or, you know, I've just felt like giving someone a break and whatever, but I don't love to do it. So yes, I'm going to probably, again, offer digital DvsM overseas. Here at home, probably not. Or at least not in the foreseeable future. I could change my mind at some point. I could feel differently at some point. Right now, I have no plans to do that, no interest in doing that. Why am I leaving money on the table? I spend a lot of time making DvsM work as a print thing. I like print. I think print is the way to go. I don't believe in digital comics. I don't love digital comics, and I don't want to. Why would I participate in something that I'm just not into? I get that a lot of people, that's their default way. I get that a lot of people don't have my hangups. I get that this is me and not you. It doesn't matter. I just don't feel like doing it. I think DvsM is best printed, read like a book. To ask me to do it digitally, it's like asking Christopher Nolan to be cool with his movies on an iPhone. Like, it's just not how I wanted you to watch it. Why am I going to spend any time or effort helping you consume my work in a way that I think is not only just not ideal, but actually a worse version of what I think I made? So, no. That's why I'm leaving money on the table. And by the way, let's be real here. I'm a small indie. Leaving money on the table, dozens of dollars, you know, oh no, what will I do? Okay. Let's see here. After or for this current issue of DvsM, will you do a Kickstarter? I think your book would get funded in a heartbeat and you'd gain new fans. Also, Kickstarter for a trade paperback would be the tits. Got lost. Oh, and then there were other questions along the lines of Kickstarter. You know, are you going to do a Kickstarter? Have you done a Kickstarter? What are your plans for Kickstarter that were anonymous? This issue, no. A trade paperback, absolutely. That has been the plan. I'm not intending to self-fund the printing of a trade paperback. It's just way too expensive. I played with it. I went through Comics Wellspring and like, let's pretend I'm ordering a trade paperback of DvsM Part 1, which is the first 3 books. DvsM 75 with The Man in Black, DvsM 97 with Jenny, and 79 with Dr. Wagner. I figured out my page count. I figured out the extra stuff I might want to add. I went to Comics Wellspring and I pretended, let's pretend I'm ordering. What would that be? And there was some sticker shock. Now I can self-fund the individual issues. It's sometimes a little painful, but I can do it. A trade paperback of Part 1, Part 2, or all 6 together, which is the ultimate goal, is a lot of money. So that is when I planned to break my, I was going to say something really uncouth there, to basically introduce myself to Kickstarter. See, I am tired. Yes, so yes, there will be a Kickstarter for a trade paperback. I haven't decided if I'm going to do Part 1, Part 2, which would be first 3 and second 3, or just wait until I'm done with all 6 books and do one giant trade for all of them. I'm going to check the comments real quick and then next question. Let's see. Oh, did I counter-programmed Jeremy again? I got to start going an hour earlier because I don't want to be, I'm a big fan of Jeremy's and that's annoying. I don't want to be broadcasting when he's broadcasting. He should be broadcasting all on his own. Let's see here. Okay. From Josh Kimball, who we were just watching on YouTube. Do you consider themes before creating the story? Or do they grow as you are writing them? I hate the sound of this answer, Josh, but I think you'll get it. It's both. Like, of course, I have a concept. Like, this is the theme. This is the thing I want to talk about. This is, I think, the core idea. First of like DvsM as a whole, but then this particular story, like within DvsM, this is the idea. As you're writing it, that sharpens. It comes into more focus. And as a result, how you present it might change a little bit. The way I think of it is like your comic might have, my story might have a theme, a big umbrella theme. I'm going to make this up. This isn't, I'm not talking about DvsM, but let's say the theme is, yeah, okay. That might be the theme. That might be the theme I'm thinking about when I'm going in. And as I'm writing it, I'm realizing it's not so much about death, or it is about death, but it's very specifically about saying goodbye to your parents or something, okay? And that comes out in the writing. That's where I start to dial in the theme, and I start to steer into sort of a more specific take on the theme, if that makes sense. So. Oh, this is good. Will your father ever make, I'm answering questions as they come in. Will your father ever make a cameo in DvsM, even as a reference model? Probably. He almost did in the one that I'm working. There was a character that I needed to cast in this one that I was looking around for an older guy to play that person. I ended up not asking him, but I've been keeping my eyes peeled. I have a sense of like where I think I want to work him in a future installment. So yes, that is the plan. Does your reference model ever change your idea of a character? You know, it's funny, when I first read this question, I thought, not really. But then with this one in particular, DvsM 2001, there's a character in it. This doesn't really spoil anything. His little call sign, his nickname is Cowboy. And my original concept for the character was more along the lines of kind of a young Henry Fonda type, like from Once Upon a Time in the West. You remember that? Like this sort of lean, steely-eyed, kind of enigmatic, sort of dodgy figure. Like that's what I originally pictured this character sort of being like. And then I picked a friend of mine to be the reference, my friend Donnie. And Donnie had clothes that he was like, hey, do you want me to dress up? Like, what should I wear? And I was like, if you've got anything like this, if you got anything like that, like kind of Western-y kind of clothes. And when he was all put together, the kind of cowboy, I wasn't getting so much like Henry Fonda cowboy, I was getting more like Yellowstone cowboy. And that was like a different thing. It totally works. And now that character is going to be more that kind of like a little more rugged, a little more rough and tumble, a little more country, a little less like the mysterious man with the black cowboy hat, and more like this kind of ranch hand type. And so I think like that's an example. The basic character and the role they play, not changed. But like how is that character expressed? That can change depending on who I'm going to use as a reference model. So let's see here. I'm ignoring some of Jim's comments here. Let's see here. I'm going to treat this as an Ask Me Anything. Has the weather in Phoenix been slightly cooler recently? Yes, finally. And from what I understand, starting today, it's going to start trending down, which I would hope, because we're entering holiday season. I mean, come on. It was still 90 something. Okay. You've named G.I. Joe as your favorite comic as a kid. This DvsM is about soldiers. Was G.I. Joe your inspiration? No, but I have to admit, I've thought about it a lot. It obviously, DvsM is a very different kind of story than G.I. Joe, different kind of tone. But I've been thinking a lot about having a cast of, and this applies not only to G.I. Joe, but like X-Men or anything else, how to have a cast of characters that are all distinct, sharing the same space, and giving them all something to do that's true to their character or that shows off their character. So that's something I've had to think about a lot. And so G.I. Joe is something I kind of thought, like, how are they juggling this? How are they making it? So even though in any particular G.I. Joe comic, one specific character might only have a dozen lines, that like they need to be right for that character. Like Roadblock needs to sound like Roadblock. Storm Shadow needs to sound like Storm Shadow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is something I've been thinking about doing this one, because if I didn't, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but not this time. There are 6 main characters in this one. It's like a team of soldiers. They're all kind of playing off each other. And that's new for me. It's new for DvsM. I think it'll end up being the biggest challenge of this one. Not only the writing of it, like, which is already done, the script is done, like writing this number of characters and giving them all their moment. Some people have bigger moments than others, and some people are in it more than others, but everyone has to be there. And then the drawing, I can tell you already 3 pages in, kind of sucks to have to draw 6 people instead of 1 or 2, my normal 1 or 2. But anyway. How close are you to your original plan for Dinosaurs versus Marsbots? Has anything changed? There have been little adjustments as it's gone on. Now, so I outlined DvsM in the 6 parts. Actually, it was 7 parts, if I'm being really, really honest. Whenever that was. 8 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. It was going to be 7 parts. I realized I should combine the last 2, so then it became 6 parts. But the basic, like what each one is about, hasn't changed. Like that has stayed. I think some of the years have moved a little bit for reasons that I'm not going to get into. But like, for example, I know this next one, the year is going to be a little different from the original plan. There are little tweaks in characters or what exactly I think takes place in the story. The broad strokes hasn't changed for each individual story, but sometimes I'm like, I don't really need this part, and I'll cut something, or there's stuff that I was sure was going to be in it and I didn't need it. Stuff that I didn't think would be in it that I thought was important to add. But those are, to me, the micro movements. When it comes to the big picture stuff, what is each of the stories about and where am I going? Like, my eyes are still on the horizon and I'm still moving toward that peak, so to speak. Like, I know where I'm going and I'm getting there. How I'm getting there might change a little bit from book to book. And I might decide, like, I'm going to pull this back. I don't believe in this anymore. I'm going to change it into something I do kind of feel strongly about or whatever. There's all these little changes to make it fresh and relevant to me when I'm sitting down to do that particular book. But again, where I'm headed has not changed. So this is a good question. Okay, I'm going to consult. I'm going to do this one, then check in on the chat. We've seen Ruben Will we ever see Jenny or Dr. Wagner again? I'm gonna do a suspenseful pause while I sip my coffee. I'm not going to commit to who we may or may not see again in future DvsMs. All I'm going to say is Ruben will not be the only recurring character. There are people you'll see again. You're just going to have to wait and see which ones. Okay, checking the chat. Let's see here. I'm loving it, assuming the cooler weather, but it's slightly concerning due to climate change. It's usually not like this until mid to late November. You mean cooling off? This has been a weird season. Like I don't know. I mean, it was 90 something last week. And that's kind of how I remember a lot of sweaty Halloweens when I was a kid. So I don't remember what's normal, but climate change is something to worry about. Have you submitted DvsM for publication? You should. Thank you. No, I don't intend to until either I'm finished with all 6 or very close to finished. As in like working on the last one. For a few reasons. The first is these take me a long time in terms of what a publisher might feel to get out. And the last thing a publisher wants is to like say like, yeah, we'll take these. When's the next one? And me say 18 months. Like they don't want that. And the last thing I need is feeling bullshit pressure from a publisher to get a book done when I have a day job and everything else. Like, so I haven't even, it's just not the right time for me. And also it's, you know, the same reason I don't have a website. Like I'm concentrated on doing it. I know a lot of people can multitask. I know a lot of people can do a bunch of things at once. I either can't or refuse to. Like I find that I'm most effective if I remember in Star Trek when there'd be something going on the ship and they would need to divert power to shields, so they would pull it from some other place. I've long felt that's how my brain works. I'm best when I can pour my attention into one little spot. I think the only talent I have is my ability to do that, is my ability to laser focus on something and pour all my resources and energy into this little space. And the moment I start getting distracted, I start getting diluted, and there's not a lot of value in what I'm doing. That's my feeling. That's my estimation of myself. Maybe it's just a belief that's not true, but that's how I feel. So this is generally the reason, like, why don't you promote DvsM more? Why aren't you submitting it to publication? Why don't you have a website? Why don't you post more? Why don't you do anything more in favor of, like, when it's usually because anything more than you're doing now, it's usually because I am working. And I don't want to take even this much attention or time away from the work. That's usually why. Publication is the same thing. I do intend to submit it for publication someday. That is absolutely, I mean, it's not guaranteed. I don't know. Maybe by the time I finish, I'll feel like this isn't important to me to do that. But it's always been on my mind, like that when I get done, I'll see if somebody wants it. I can tell you that's not the end all be all for me. I can tell you that's not part of the dream. You know, the dream is just finishing. So after that, it's like, why not? Why not just submit it and see what happens? Yes, I'm going to. No, I have not. So, let's see here. What's the last thing you drew in the new one? Okay, I want to refresh my memory. I'm going to look at my page that I was working on before we started. Okay, I was drawing a quilted hunting jacket. You know what I mean? Quilted jackets are the ones that are like cotton or something that have like the crisscross stitching with like a little cushy in between in each little. It looks like a quilt, but the squares are like maybe this big. I was drawing that. That helps you. Okay, this was a two-parter. I wish I had a better answer for these two. I'll do my best, but the first one, and I think these were from the same person, but they were anonymous. I have too many ideas. How do you pick one and stick with it? And advice for someone wanting to make a comic but not sure how. Okay, let's start with this one. I feel like this one is easier to give a constructive answer. First, this isn't just a plug for a friend. Check out Scott Serkland's channel. Scott Serkland, Serkland. You're probably familiar. If you know me and you know Artcasters, you know Scott. He has something in the vicinity of 80 million how to make comics videos. So watch those. Like, you don't have to watch all 80 million, but pick the ones that you think where you're like stuck. Find those topics and watch those. That's like a good entry level how to go about making comics. After that, and now we're getting back to like, I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish I had a better answer than you just kind of have to do it. It's one of those things. To me, it's like, I don't know how to play the guitar, but I think it's like this. Advice for someone wanting to learn how to play the guitar, but not sure how? You start playing the guitar. Like, that's how. And I'm not meaning to be snarky or glib, like, and it's a bummer to say it. I wish I could give you more constructive. You do this, then you do this, and now you're making comics. Like, I think you got to fumble with it. It's one of those things that the only way to learn how is just to do it. How did you learn how to ride a bike? How did you learn how to ride a skateboard or whatever? You did it, and you screwed up a few times, and that taught you more than success, and eventually you kind of found your way. You can do things like watch Scott's videos. You can pick up books on how to make comics. I'm trying to see if I have one in arm's length. Yeah, I don't have any in like easy grabbing distance, but McLeod's book on making comics was really helpful to me. How do people learn how to make movies? They watch a bunch of movies. How do you learn how to make comics? I would say read a bunch of comics. You don't have to like them. I think, to me, just like failure, I think teaches you more than success. For me, I don't know if it'll be the same case for you, but for me, reading stuff you don't like, or I'm talking about me, reading stuff I don't like is more instructive than stuff I love. Reading stuff I don't like makes me think about how it could be better, or what you would do different, or where I think this is going haywire, or whatever. I think that can be really useful. And that's the case with comics, with movies, with books, with whatever. I think hearing something you don't like tells you a lot more about what is good. I think those are useful examples. The one thing I'll say to younger or / inexperienced creatives, I think there's a sentiment out there. I remember feeling this way. I know when I used to talk to like contemporaries when I was younger, they would feel the same way. I still get hints of it from people today, or sometimes you'll see it in like indie comics groups. People suggest this fear of exposing yourself to work that may influence you or get into your idea somehow. To me, and this is no shade, like I said, I used to feel this way too. I think that's something you should outgrow. I think there is no downside to exposing yourself to other people's work. And in fact, it will help your work be better. I know there's sometimes a skepticism about that, but it will. I think seeing bad work will alert you to what's bad so you don't do it yourself. And I think seeing good work will make you realize like where the bar is. And give you a sense of where you, if not where you can be, where you'd like to be. Where if you never see this, like you may be content doing this. Like I think it's always good to be kind of trying to shoot a little high. But again, I wish I had better, I would just say like, you got to start. Scott and a lot of people would say, do a mini, like do just a little, like an 8-page comic or something. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. It would be a little hypocritical for me to say that when I threw myself into a 6-part, enormous, multi-generational, 40 to 60-page comic series. Like, it'd be weird for me to say, like, no, start with an 8-pager. Like, I didn't start with an 8-pager. But I think if you feel like you're really needing to ease in to the pool, then it might not be bad to do a mini, just to kind of get a feel. But I think, and this isn't a hot take, if you can do a really solid 8-page comic, there's no reason why you can't do a 50-page, or a 20-page or a 25-page or anything. Like, if you can hold the reader's attention and have some kind of a flow and introduce a character that makes sense and create some drama or some excitement or some amusement or whatever your thing is, whatever you're going for, in 8 pages, now it's just repetition. Now you're just do that over and over. You'll be fine. So it's a good proof of concept. As for I have too many ideas. How do you pick one and stick with it? This is another one. Man, I mean, are you looking for an answer other than just pick one and stick with it? Like, I don't know. Like, this one is hard for me because, yeah, I don't get me wrong. I have a bunch of ideas too. But there's always one that you're always cooking, that just seems to always be like tapping you on the shoulder and you keep coming back to. And if there isn't, if you have like 4 ideas you like equally and think about equally and have equally fleshed out, I would almost say that's great, but you haven't met the one yet. Like, if there should be one that's really like, this is the one I have to do now. You can get to the others eventually. What's the one that really is not letting you ignore it? And again, if you're able to ignore it, then it's probably not the one. I mean, I don't know. These are a lot of work. It's a lot of work. If you don't have to do it, you're not going to do it. And if there's not an idea that you have to do, I don't think you're going to stick with it. The sticking with it, here, just try this on. The sticking with it should be the easiest part. Believe it or not. Like, sticking with DvsM is not the hard part. The hard part is like the grind or the pushing or the constantly feeling like you're falling short or the not having a lot of free time, or like that's the hard part. Deciding to keep doing DvsM, it's like just a given. I feel like that kind of has to be the case with you too. So let me make sure I didn't skip one. Yeah. Endings are hard. You feel pressure to come up with a good ending for DvsM. Well, now I do. No, I want to, before I give my answer, I want to gently push back on this idea that endings are hard. I think that's something that's gotten into the pop culture water because of like Game of Thrones and Star Wars and stuff like that, where there's these pop examples of properties that didn't quite stick the landing. I do think those are the exception. Like, I don't know, are endings hard? I'm not saying it's I don't know if I disagree. I don't know if I'm just accepting that as truth, that endings are difficult. I think we've just seen some conspicuous examples of bad ones or not satisfying ones. And that's the key to my answer. I have a quote. Where is it? Yeah. You can't see it, but on my wall here, I have like little creative quotes, inspiration things, like whatever, tacked to my wall. And I forgot where I encountered this, but it was in regards to endings. It says it's not happy versus unhappy. It's satisfying versus unsatisfying. That's an important difference. Like, you can think of movies or books or comics or whatever that in a way had a bad ending, an unhappy ending, but it totally works. Like, that's what you would expect. It's satisfying. It makes sense. It's the way it should end. I mean, I'm just gonna Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks dies. Spoilers, 25-year-old movie or whatever it is. Tom Hanks dies. It doesn't feel like a good ending. It doesn't feel like a happy ending, but it's a satisfying ending. Makes sense. Blade Runner 2049. It appears that Kay presumably dies. Like, kind of a bummer. We followed this guy through the whole movie. It's a satisfying ending. Like, it's the ending feels right. Dune 2, okay? Like, Paul is basically now like demented dark messiah. And he knows it. Like, he knows he's unleashed the holy war. Like, he knows that, like, this is not a great ending. But it feels right. It feels earned. DvsM's ending, which of course I've got in my head, is going to be DvsM's ending. I hope people find it satisfying. It'll be true to the rest of DvsM. Like, so I think if you like DvsM and you like it for the right reasons, and you understand DvsM, the ending's going to be exactly right and you'll be satisfied with it. So I'm not worried about that. What are your plans for after DvsM? That's a good question. I didn't even know I'd be doing DvsM a year before I was doing it. So it'd probably be crazy for me to speculate, but there's a novel I started toying with in high school, and I was writing pretty seriously. Oh, Louis joined. Hello, Louis. I was writing pretty seriously in college and the first few years out of college. That never got done. And I've long thought I wanted to circle back to it and finish it. If I had to bet what I would probably want to work on once I wrap up DvsM, probably that. It's just something that I've always intended to go back to. It's always been very close to me. Talking again about the story that you, like, having to pick the story, like, the novel story has never left my mind. Like it's always been there. So it's an a creative project that will be addressed someday if I'm living and able. So probably when DvsM is done. But again, I don't know. This is the crack that is comics. And this is something I'll have to get over when I move on to other things, whether it's the novel or I've had screenplay ideas. So it's like, well, maybe I could write a movie, try writing a movie. The problem with those and the crack that is comics is if you're willing to work, if you're willing to follow through, it is, I would say, fairly easy to get people to see your work, your comic work. Like it's not that, like, again, if you're willing to do it, if you're willing to sit, button chair, and like make a comic, you can get it out there. Like you can get an artist alley table, you can set up your shop, you can sell to your friends, you can show up on Artcasters, like you can get some books out there. And you know, maybe not tens of thousands, but you can sell some books. I'm case in point. Getting your novel read, getting your screenplay made into a movie, or not even made into a movie, getting it sold. Like, let's just say that. Like, these are things that are way harder. And the question is, how hooked will I be when I finish DvsM? How hooked will I be on the ability to do work and get it out there and have someone experience it? Like, how much will I need that? If I'm like, no, it's fine, I didn't have that before, I don't need it now, then I'll probably do the novel or a screenplay. But if there's that possibility that I have to allow for, that by the time I get to finishing DvsM number 6, that I'll be like, I want to make work for people. I want people to be able to see my work. That will hurt the appeal of writing a novel or writing a screenplay. Does that make sense? Okay, we're going to check the chat. Let's see here. Are you open to reading scripts of others to critique their work? Sure. Yeah, I think as long as it's clear, like right off the bat, like what are you looking for? Like, do you want me, like what kind of notes are you looking for? Are you looking for, I'm not saying you specifically, Dylan, I'm saying like whoever. Someone says like, hey, would you read something over for me? Do you want like proofreading? Spelling and grammar? Like, do you want an attaboy? You want like, good job. Yeah, cool. Can't wait to read it. You know, can't wait to see the final thing. Or do you want me to say like, this part was good. I don't know about this part. This part didn't make sense to me. This part I would like, how, like, what are you looking for? Just so we can agree on that before I start reading. Because I think the awkward situation for someone when you're asking someone to read is if you're giving a category of feedback that they weren't looking for. Like they wanted encouragement and you're giving notes. Or they wanted notes and you're giving like grammar and format feedback. You know, like what, like that's where I think, or you know, they just want whatever. Like I think as long as we're all on the same page, like what are you looking for? Yeah, I would be honored to read somebody's work, as I have been in the past when I've been lucky enough to read other people's things. Let's see here. When was your first time doing Artist Alley? Do you remember how successful you were for that first time? Okay, my first time would have been 2000. Oh gosh. Here, I'm going to look at my photo album. Mac Photos has dates. I'm going to find pictures from my first con. Louis. Lots of pictures of food. It would have been, I know this is maybe a more specific answer than you wanted or needed, but I'm committed to this path now. I'm looking. Mimi. It looks like it would have been 2014. 2014 was my first Phoenix Fan Fusion or Phoenix Comic Con or whatever they were calling it then. And he's wanting this lunch. I'm gonna have to take a break at some point to give him lunch. 2014, I didn't have the comic yet. I had the coloring book. For people who haven't been with me from the beginning, you're like, coloring book. There was a coloring book. The original incarnation of DvsM was prints and a coloring book that had images of the Dinosaur-Martian War with like little descriptions. So you'd have a page of like a Tyrannosaur eating a Mars bot, and then you'd have a description of the Tyrannosaurs with like some anecdote about them from the front lines. So it's like a kid's version of the DvsM comics, basically. I don't like I couldn't tell you like how much I made. I don't remember that. All I know is that I made money, and it was encouraging enough to decide to keep going. And that actually, looking back, that must have been pretty good because I had a table to myself. I got a whole table to myself at Artist Alley. And I know I was able to cover that. Like I was in the black. Like I covered that. I covered all the printing. All the money I put into it, and somehow made like a few $100 or something on top of that, which probably means like I did really good. I don't really remember now, but I did okay. You know, again, this is like what I'm talking about. There's a fairly low bar of entry for indie comics or even Artist Alley. Like if you can scrape the money together for a table, and I'm saying no shade to other Artist Alley people, but like there's no getting around it. There's a little bit of shade there. You don't have to even be great, and you'll get some sales. Like you may not necessarily cover your expenses, but you'll sell some books, you'll sell some prints. Like someone will buy something, assuming you're at least okay, you know, like you're fine. So that's what I mean. Like it's not hard to get your stuff out there. I had some goofy stuff. I had the coloring book and some prints, but I had branding. Like my banner was cool and I had colors that matched, and you know, I could make the table interesting. And while I'm not super great with customers, like engaging and selling, like I'm also not a wallflower who creeps out customers by just like sitting and not talking to them and acting uncomfortable. Like I will, like, so as long as you do like basic things right, like you can do okay. I, though, would strongly recommend sharing a table because tables have just gotten too expensive for Artist Alleys. Okay, I am going to play a video while I feed my cat so he doesn't meow through the whole thing. Let's see here. Let's do the... Oh, let's do a trailer for 1979. Why not? It's been a while. Actually, before we do that, let's hide Dylan's comment. Okay, now. Okay, kitty fed. Let's see here. I do agree that even if you aren't great, you'll get some sales. I've seen some artist alley videos where the art wasn't great, but they sold a decent amount of their pieces. Yeah, it's tough. I always am very uncomfortable like talking about this phenomenon because it sounds, I get it. It sounds shitty. It sounds terrible to say like that person's not even good and they're selling books. They're good at something, and that's the point. Like, I think the point is if you can connect. There are 8 billion people on the planet. Even if you're shit, and I don't mean like you're shit, you're garbage, but even if your thing, whatever your thing is, only connects to 1% of 1% of 1% of the population, you're still going to sell thousands and thousands of things. You know, like it's just a matter of getting in front of people's eyes, and you'll get in front of a lot of eyes at a con. I would rail every time I do a convention. I rail about the fact that this isn't the indie comic audience. This is like the MCU audience. I don't know who these people are. This is like the Funko Pop audience. Nevertheless, I sell books. This is the point. Like, you know, you get seen by enough people, you'll make some sales. It's so I wouldn't worry about like people will see your work. Let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading and not sharing. My best friend has experience with doing Artist Alley, so we've talked about it. When we have pieces, we're gonna go. Yeah, I think that's a great. And look, I treat it. I've said this a million times before on other shows, and probably this show as well. Treat Artist Alley like a Vegas casino. Only spend the money you're willing to lose, and just treat it like we're gonna have this experience. We're gonna see how it goes. Don't go like thinking like, boy, if I don't double my money, this is a whole waste. Don't. No. Like, you treat it like a vacation. Set aside money you're willing to burn on this experiment. And that way, if you do break even or make some money, great. Like, that's amazing. That's awesome. But like, keep the bar low. And that has nothing to do with how good you are. It's just the fact that your work, no matter how good it is, as with all things now, is floating in an ocean of garbage. And the odds that someone is going to see your thing, that's the obstacle. So like, you could have great work, it's awesome, I think everybody should read it, and you wouldn't necessarily get sales. You'll get some, again, you'll get some, but you may not get as many as you deserve, just because it's hard for people to find things. It's hard to find the people who want your things. Like, don't get too attached to that. But sharing an artist alley table with a friend, putting some stuff together, making some kind of sign or a banner, and just make a weekend of it. It'll be a good experience. Like, I think if you go in with that mentality, it's not bad. As soon as you go in thinking like, this is all a big fucking waste if I don't make this much money, that's where, like the old maps, there be monsters here. Like that's a bad, I get it if it's your hustle, it's your job. It's a different thing. But if you're just trying this, I think you should go in with a more adventurous, whatever happens, happens attitude, in my opinion. Let's see here. I wish that more comic creators made artist alley videos, because 99%, no, 100% of their artists are just like stickers, postcards, stuff. Yeah. 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 Though, and I don't always do it, little things like stickers or buttons, there is some value in that. And there's kind of a strategic value. If you, first of all, if you can get them interested in a little thing, a little cheap thing, it's not like, that's the biggest hump is to get them to buy something. Okay. Once you get them to buy even like a thing for $1, it's easier to go from there to buying a book than buying nothing to buying something for $1. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, it gets the money going. It opens up the wallet, and then you can kind of go into something more. The other thing is, it's a great value add. Like what I tend to use them as, like I usually have stickers. If someone's looking at books and they're kind of hemming and hawing and waffling, boy, I mean, I'm really interested. I don't know. That sometimes all they need is a little push, and the little push can be in the form of, tell you what, if you buy a book today or these books today, I'll throw in these stickers for free. That's sometimes all it takes. So that's the value of something cheap, something small, something cheap, is to be that nudge, to be that kind of nudge. Like, you're on the fence. What if I threw this? Let's see. Where am I? So no, I think, look, I think you should know by now, especially if you saw my answer to the digital comic thing. I would never tell you to do something you don't want to do. And I very earnestly believe there's no value in doing something you don't want to do, that it'll be counterproductive, that it's bad mojo, it's a bad vibe. And even if the customer is not picking up on the bad vibe, you will be feeling the bad vibe. Like, you're not a merchant, you're an artist. I feel this very strongly. I know there's people out there who disagree with me, that you're both, or you were mostly a merchant. I don't know, but not me. I think you're an artist, you're a creative. You should be doing what feels right to you. And that's your compass. As soon as you're doing a thing where it's like, ugh, I hate doing this, or it feels icky, or it feels weird, or I don't love this, or this isn't my comfort zone, done. Get rid of it. Let's see here. I prefer to sell comic stickers, postcards, collector card games, and board games. I've thought about collector card games for DvsM, actually. I don't know if I'll ever do that, but I think about it. It's a thought that bubbles up every few months, like how I would do that. Yeah, or at least small and everything else. Like, I think there needs to be some kind of a little thing that's small enough that you can give it away. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a loss, but you could. It's not painful to give it away. Okay. Next question. Gordon Ramsay said, you can tell how good a cook is by how they make scrambled eggs. What's something you could ask someone to draw that tells you how good of an artist they are? Mary Jackson. Thank you, Mary. So I got a sneak preview of this question. I think, now I'm biased. I think undraped human form, and that's, I'm not joking. I'm not being silly. Like, I think draw a nude human figure. I think if you can draw a human figure well, you could probably draw anything. You're probably a good artist. And if you can't do it very well, you're probably not very good. And like, if you're fine, then you're probably fine. You know, like, I think it's a really good barometer. I think it's one of the, to me, at least from my aesthetic, from my taste, from my idea of what makes a good artist or a bad artist, like, that's a pretty good litmus test, is draw, like, let's get a model in here. Draw that person. Whether it's portrait would be fine. Not, to me, not as useful. Clothed is fine. To me, not as useful. Like, nude model is the gold standard, I think. And you can fight me on that. Like, prove me wrong. Like, I don't know if there's one thing, if I want to evaluate how good an artist someone is, that would be my thing. Have you ever collaborated on a comic with anyone, or would you? Not really. I was thinking about this. Yes, sort of. Chris Ward, who has popped up here and there, a good friend of mine. Years and years ago, this would have been, I mean, almost 20 years ago, maybe. I don't know exactly, but it's shy of 20 years, but it's like 15 to 20 years ago. He had a concept for a webcomic. He was doing the writing. I was going to draw it. We did like 3 or 5. We wanted a bank to get started. I drew like 3 or 5 of them. I don't remember how many. I'd have to go back and look. And we thought better of it. The concept, it's like, this is not cool. Like, this is, it's funny, but in a mean way, and it's going to hurt feelings. And like, wait, let's not do this. So that, but other than that, not really. I did that. I don't know if this counts. I did a variant cover for Scott Serkland for Young and the Dead, which was a lot of fun. I've only done it a couple times, but interpreting someone else's characters is kind of fun, which is funny for me because I don't like fan art. I don't want to say I don't like fan art. I don't like doing fan art. I'm just not interested in it. But when it's like indie fan art, like of people I know, like their characters, that I've really enjoyed it. I've only done it, like I said, twice, but I really thought it was fun. There are some others that I'm hoping to do. I've talked to other people, I'm not going to name names or make any promises, about maybe doing, I would like to do more variant covers for different creatives. But in terms of actually collaborating on a comic project, like writing something with someone or whatever, drawing their thing or whatever, no, I've never done that. I'd be open to it. I mean, there's all these ifs. If the project was right, if the collaborator was right, if the fit was right, if I wasn't doing anything else, if I didn't have 3 more DvsMs to finish, if. But yeah. Okay. Let's see here, from Chase. Chase had a few questions. I think they're sprinkled throughout here. What lessons or disciplines do you wish are more readily known in the field or industry of making indie comics? This one's tough. Because I don't consider myself any kind of authority on indie comics. So I don't know. I can just talk about my pet peeves for my taste, like my preference. I can tell you I get really impatient with a lack of clarity. And I'm not talking about drawing, like, can I tell what I'm looking at? I mean fundamentals, like your page layout. Like, which panel do I read first? Or which dialogue bubble do I read first? Like, I'm in a panel and I see dialogue bubbles. Can I tell which way to read this? Nothing. There are a few things that will make me bounce harder off a book than when I feel like the creator has gotten either a little too adventurous or a little too experimental, or it's just a little sloppy with just basic page layout. That's what I mean when I say clarity. Like, can you read this? Like that kind of clarity. Does it make sense? Or is it just like stuff on a page? Other than that, like cartooning 101. You know, like if you're drawing someone punching someone or something, like the panel needs to be either this or this. Like it shouldn't be like basic things like that. You know, like does this read right? Does this like are you just fundamentals, composition? I guess that's why basics. I wish there was, I think I know there are comic creators who get irritated or triggered or whatever if you use movie language to talk about comics, like a shot or a scene or a, you know, whatever, that when you use that kind of language. At the same time, they're both visual mediums. It's both visual storytelling, movies and comics. Especially in such a cinema-oriented culture as ours. If you're drawing a comic and don't have a sense of like what makes for a good shot, like, I mean, I think that would be like a discipline into that angle of the question. What discipline do you wish was more readily known in the field or industry of making indie comics? Like just basic understanding of cinematic language would take you far. That paired with basic cartooning, like how do you convey action, how to convey this, how to convey that, when to use lights and darks, like just basics. You don't have to be the best. I'm not the best, like, but just basics. Like that's something that I think anyone who's thinking of drawing a comic, it would be worth revisiting. Let's see here. What are your views on fan art being sold? I know it's become a hot button issue over the past year or so. This may not. Here's the thing. Like I have a lot of friends who do the fan art thing, and I have no gripe, no complaint. But there's like a degree where to me it does make me raise an eyebrow. I think, and I don't know if I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about this, so I don't think I can articulate it super coherently. But for example, if you're doing fan art at your artist alley table, you're drawing pictures of Daredevil or something, and you're selling these, fine. Like, that's cool. I don't care. Like, I have no opinion. Okay. But a few years ago, there was a creator. I'm not going to name them because I'm not interested in starting drama, but there was a well-known creator who was trying to crowdfund. I'm trying to be careful here and maintain the anonymity of this person. They were trying to crowdfund an art book that was focused on one of the big two's characters. And one of these big two, the one that was it was relevant to, stepped in with a cease and desist. Like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? Absolutely not. Kill this. And this creator somehow had the nerve to be like kind of complaining about this on the internet. So what is the difference in my mind? Like, and to me, I thought that was ridiculous. Like, of course that was dumb for you to try to do that. And of course they should shut you down. What is the difference? To me, it's like a scale difference. Like, if you're making a few dozen, like, again, dozens of dollars, if you're making a few $100 off of some other company's characters at an artist alley table, like small quantities, to me, though, it would be crazy if you're like, hey, I uploaded my new book on Amazon, my new self-published book on Amazon. It's all my drawings of the Star Wars characters. Like, Disney or Lucasfilm probably should go out. Like, if you're trying to get like big money, you're trying to, I don't know. And again, I haven't thought this through very carefully, but there's a point where I feel like, okay, is there an art style that you dislike or hate? On the opposite end, what art style do you love? Art style. Okay, I'm going to circle back to this one because that's a big one, and I got to think about it. Let's go through some more of these slideshow ones. That's a good question. Can you show? Oh, that's right. Can you share your art portfolio? I would love to. Not today. It'll take too long. This is already hour 13 minutes. It'll probably be hour and a half, 2 hours by the time I'm done. So, but I love this idea and it'll be fun for me. So since you opened the door, next live stream, we'll go through Gary's portfolio. It's a mix of digital and traditional, going all the way back to childhood to present. It'll be fun. And I would like that. I would like to share that because I feel like most of you only know me from my DvsM work. And while I'm proud of my DvsM work, I don't think it's necessarily representative of all the things I've done. So next time. Okay, let's go back to Dylan's question now before we go into movies. An art style you dislike or hate. Oh my God, I'm gonna blast through this. No offense to the people a little younger than me that grew up with this and love it. I think 90s comic art looks like shit. I'm sorry. Okay, let's just move on. On the opposite end, what art style do you love? I still, at the end of the day, this answers both. What do I love and what do I wish I could do? I am still most in love with old school pen and ink classic comic art work. Like Wally Wood, like Bernie Wrightson, like Al Williamson, like that era, Prince Valiant. Oh my God. I'm blanking on because I'm tired. Not Buck Rogers. Flash Gordon. Like that era, Prince Valiant especially. Like if I could pick one, Prince Valiant, old school Prince Valiant to me is as good as it gets. It looks so good. Now you can see, mine doesn't look, DvsM doesn't look anything like Prince Valiant, old school Prince Valiant, pen and ink. But if you read DvsM, it's not a shock to hear me say like that's I think as good as art gets. Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes, like I think that's something where it's like if I could do that, like that's just beautiful. That you get a sense, like old school, either brush or pen and ink. There's nothing better than that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's see here. Mike Mignola, I do love. I do love. I can't say like I want to be able to emulate that, but I really respect it. Yeah, and the Rubber Hole's old school, like Cuphead, like that's another one. The art for Cuphead in particular, which of course is honoring all that, Rubber Hose 20s, 30s style animation. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful. So Scott Lost will appreciate this, but like 90s era Capcom, like the artists they had, the in-house artists they had, bar none. Bar none. Okay. Is there a certain filmmaker canonically revered that you don't care for at all or enjoy at all in terms of personal artistic preference? So assuming Michael Bay isn't canonically revered, I think he's not revered. I thought about this. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying I don't like this guy. I'm not as enamored as I think a lot of people are. James Cameron, he's good. He's clearly good. Like, you don't need me to say, like, James Cameron's a good director. Yeah, of course he is. I don't think he's a great director. I think he's fine, and he's been lucky enough to just sort of do some great movies, like popular movies that elevated him. But like, here's what I'm saying, and this is, again, I know this sounds snooty. I don't care. It's a snooty question. Like, and Chase knows it too. You can't put James Cameron on the same level as like Scorsese or David Fincher or Spielberg or Godard or like, I mean, like, it's not even, of course, James Cameron. Okay. Let's see. What current tropes do you find on television or film you can't stand at all when you see them? So I thought about this. I had to think about this a little bit. And what I think this came up maybe on Artcasters once or on Josh's channel once. I don't remember. One of my biggest pet peeves in art is what I would describe as prudishness. Trying to protect or preserve the delicate sensibility of an audience. Like when it's very conspicuous that is happening, I hate that. It really bums me out. It reminds me that I'm watching a movie, and I'm not. It takes me out of the suspension of disbelief. So the reason I bring that up is an example would be, we've all seen it. The couple they've had sex. They're laying there in bed. The woman modestly has the sheet up tight under her shoulders. Or the guy gets out of bed and like wraps the sheet around his waist like a bath towel. Like that kind of stuff is just, it's to me childish. It really is like, it's like the nuns I had in Catholic school directed a movie. It's so dumb. It is so not real. Like, and I guess that's the bigger thing that checks me out, is not real. The thing and this is a symptom of maybe my day job. Every time I see someone get knocked out in a movie, I'm out of it. This is stupid. Like, Anytime, here's the latest one. Oh my God, this drives me. This to me is like watching Roger Rabbit. You'll see a movie that's pretty real, pretty gritty, pretty cool. And when this happens in it, I feel like Roger Rabbit just walked into frame. When someone's getting shot and they're like, and like somehow being pierced by bullets is like defeating the gravity of their body falling on the ground. And like the bullets, somehow the physics are like throwing them back, making them do this kind of weird death dance. So fucking stupid. So stupid. It's this leftover, cheesy, goofy movie trope that no one even questions. Let me tell you, I've seen lots of surveillance footage, body cam footage, all sorts of things. You have now at this point, like watching the news. You want to know what someone looks like when they get shot? They look like a drunk falling over. This kind of weird, like, you have the puppet on the strings and you're doing this when someone's getting shot. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Capital D. It's like, that's one I guess that's the winner. I didn't realize once I started this, but that's the winner. It's for one of the greatest movies of all time, Godfather. The worst thing in that movie is when Sonny gets killed and he's dancing around like a marionette on his car. It looks so stupid. That's not real. That's not real. Now this is like Gilligan's Island now. It's goofy. It's stupid. It's cartoon. I didn't realize I'd get this excited, but that's it. What is your favorite Kung Fu film and why? I'm going to say, I was tempted to say Enter the Dragon for all the obvious reasons. Unfortunately, I have a lot of problems with, not problems with Enter the Dragon. I love watching Enter the Dragon. I think hot take, maybe the clunkiest of all of Bruce Lee's movies. It might be. I think everyone sounds like they're dubbed, even though they're not. like there's the audio doesn't quite work. Some of the lines I've watched that movie 1,000 times, I'm sure. Some of those lines still make no sense to me. Like, we cut something in between? Why didn't we, it just doesn't make sense. While of course Bruce Lee's choreography is amazing, that's kind of where the list ends for amazing choreography in that movie. With the exception of, oh my God, Jim Black Samurai, what was his name? I got to get his name right. He was legit. Let's see here. I'm sorry. I got to give credit. Enter the Dragon. Jim Kelly, that's right. Jim Kelly was cool. Bruce Lee was cool. Everyone else, it was maybe the first Bruce Lee movie I ever saw. It's very, very good. It's close to my heart. It's not my favorite. I think my favorite would be Fist of Fury, which is 1972. This gets weird. People who know Bruce Lee know this. But if you don't know Bruce Lee, this might be interesting to you. For some reason, a lot of the names of his movies got swapped when they came to the States. So like Fist of Fury, when I say Fist of Fury, you might think about The Big Boss, which is a different movie. I mean Chinese Connection, which also might be making you think of a different movie. The one that's set in like 1900 China. That one. The one that has the scene that gets referenced all the time in other Kung Fu movies, where Bruce Lee goes into a Japanese dojo and fights all of them. Just decides to fight all of them. And there's that scene of him in the center And like they all surrounded him, and at one point he goes like this, and they all go like, "Whoa!" Like they all back away from him. Tarantino, the master of referencing, references this in Kill Bill. I think that's probably my favorite. I think it has maybe overall the best choreography. I think it's fun to watch. Super racist to Japanese, but whatever. You know, I mean, I'm not excusing it. It's just like it is what it is. But overall, probably my favorite. I think. Let's see here. I'm going to look at the chats. Let's see here. Yeah, yes. Art portfolio next time. I'm excited someone suggested this. I never would have occurred to me to do an episode, but since someone said it, okay. Let's see here. The Art of Cuphead book is great. And I've told people, even if you don't like video games, even if you don't want to play a video game, just load up a playthrough of Cuphead on YouTube and you'll see what I mean. The art is phenomenal. Yeah, this is the thing, the prudishness. Like, we're all grown-ups. And it annoys me to be treated otherwise. And it annoys me to see grown-ass adults. Like, you'll see it. I think we're actually slipping backward. Because I'll be watching a scene from like a favorite movie of mine or something on YouTube or whatever. And in the comments, there'll be someone who's like, "What's with the bad language?" It's like, are you 7? Grow up. I have no tolerance for that. I think it's a side effect of having grown up in Catholic school, where it's always about like, I can't say that, and you shouldn't show that, and like, this is for grown-ups, not for you. And then you become a grown-up, and even still, it's like maybe it's still not even for you now. Like, I just hate that stuff. It really, really rubs me the wrong way. Okay. Let's see here. Kung Fu Panda, obviously. I've never seen Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, that's true. That is, yep. Yeah, this is like Middle Eastern actors having to be terrorists and Asian actors having to know karate. Gay characters have to, say something that makes you say yes, queen, or whatever. I don't know. Like, but on the bright side, I think you have to go through that to get out the other end of now they can just be whoever. I mean, that's maybe an optimistic appraisal, but I think like you have to have a period where Native Americans are only playing feather headdress wearing natives before like they're playing like normal people, just like normal everyday people. Like, I think you have to, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that's the case with fashionable twinks in movies. Okay. What is your favorite Wes Anderson movie? Grand Budapest Hotel. For sure. I like a lot of his movies, but though A Special Place, I don't know if this counts because it's a short. There's a special place in my heart for Hotel Chevalier, which was the short that played in front of some screenings of the one with the train. The brothers taking the train trip. Darjeeling Limited. Some screenings of, if you have it on disc, it's on that. But some screenings of Darjeeling Limited played a short Hotel Chevalier in front of it. And I really love that. I don't know if that counts as a movie. So if we're talking movies, Grand Budapest Hotel. Which are you more excited for, a new Superman or a new Fantastic Four? New Superman. I optimistically think James Gunn is a good choice for Superman. He seems to love the character. I don't think we've gotten a really good Superman movie in a long time, like decades. I think he could knock it out of the park. I'm optimistic. I'm not excited about Fantastic Four, but I'm more excited for new Superman. Alien or Aliens? Choose wisely. Alien, for sure. I rewatched Aliens. It's a great, fun movie. Alien is better. Also, what did you think of Alien Romulus? I did not think of Alien Romulus. I haven't seen it yet. Best MCU and DC movie. MCU, Winter Soldier. Easy. Winter Soldier is fucking awesome. That's such a good movie. DC, probably Dark Knight. I mean, that's not a controversial take. That's a really good movie. Like, favorite anime. This isn't the best anime. It's not the best drawn. It's not the best written. But it's the one that I saw. I think it was the first real anime I saw, and I loved it. I had it on VHS. I watched it a gazillion times. I showed it to everybody I knew. You gotta see this. Like, this was in like the late 80s when anime was still kind of this weird thing. Fist of the North Star. The original Fist of the North Star movie. Not the series. I haven't seen the series, but the movie. Loved it. Still love it. What movie has the most memorable ending? What is the first one you think of? From Jim Luhan. Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth to me is a great ending. It's also, I think, a kind of a personality test of an ending, where how you interpret it, I think, says something about you. I don't want to spoil it, even though it's an old movie. Like, I think you need to go through that journey and get there yourself. But Pan's Labyrinth, I think about that Pan's Labyrinth ending often as just a really great example of that, going full circle. Remember earlier, we talked about endings. They don't need to be happy or unhappy. They need to be satisfying. The Pan's Labyrinth ending, I would argue, is not happy or unhappy. It's very ambiguous. It's satisfying. It feels right. It feels good. It feels it has merit. It has weight. It's the right ending. It's the correct ending. Okay. Let's see here. Who's your favorite Beatle and why? It was always John Lennon until maybe the last 5 or 10 years. Now it's George Harrison. I still love John. I still love all the Beatles. I think I aged out of John's kind of mommy issue, fuck the world thing. I love John, don't get me wrong, but there's kind of an adolescent energy to John that me as a nearly 50-year-old man, it's harder for me to not get irritated by. I'm more comfortable with George's kind of sad wisdom and his kind of the beauty of his work. And in terms of soloist, like solo careers, he's the only artist I was interested in post Beatles. John, I like a lot of John's stuff post Beatles. McCartney never really did. I really respect and appreciate McCartney. I don't care at all about Wings or his solo stuff. And Ringo, whatever. And again, no shade on Ringo. I love all the Beatles. Let's be clear. I love all the Beatles. George is someone, though, where it's I kind of love them all on his own. And even if I didn't know who the Beatles were, I think I'd be into George. So let's see here. If you could remove all traces of one song from history so it never existed, which song would you choose? I think we could all be cool with dumping Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, right? Like, no one's going to miss that. Sink it to the bottom of the ocean. Bury it with Jimmy Hoffa. Fuck that shit. Who's listening to that? Hit shuffle. What's the first song that comes up? No cheating. Okay, I have my Apple Music open. We're going to do it right now. This may not pay off. It may be really boring, but I've got like 10,000 songs on this. So let's see. I hit shuffle. Let's see here. Wait, no, I gotta close and reopen music. It wasn't working. Hold on. We're gonna do this again. All right, here we go. Shuffle. What is that? It's video game music. Creepy Castle official soundtrack. I told you that wasn't gonna pay off. Like there's a lot of music on my computer. So okay. Everything else. Are you as anxious about me about the selection? I hope you're not as anxious as me about the selection because I am fucking anxious. I will say this, and I encourage everyone to consider this. This is the first election where I am participating, like volunteering. I've been making signs. I've been, showing up. I've been donating. I've been doing all the things. Okay. And I can tell you, it doesn't make it better. It helps. It helps a lot. I do not recommend sitting at home, biting your nails, scouring for whatever the latest poll is or whatever. Like, don't do that. Donate to the causes you care about or the candidates you want to win. Volunteer. It's real easy. And I guarantee you, especially if you're in a battleground state like I am, there are dozens of opportunities of shit to do. Like there's so many things out there if you look. Like just move your little fingers over Google and you'll find it. And then especially if you're in a battleground state, I know we're all sick of it. I know we're all bored of it. I know we're all tired of it. I know we're worn out. I think you really need to say how you feel and encourage people to vote. There are people on either side who are voting no matter what. The ones that I think this is going to be another one of those really tight elections where it's going to come down to a few thousand, maybe a few hundred votes. Okay. And it's all going to be about who's mobilized, who gets out. If you know somebody in your life who's like, I don't know, should I vote, whatever, or they're, God forbid, talking about fucking Jill Stein or RFK or somebody, like, time for an intervention. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go deep down this rabbit hole because we'll maybe save that for a different stream. But just in terms of the anxiety question, get off the bench. You'll feel better. Get on the field. You'll feel a little better. Okay. What are the worst and best jobs you ever had and why? The worst was probably, I worked for like a week and a half or 2 weeks at Hometown Buffet. Hometown Buffet is one of these, like, it's like Golden Corral, or it's one of these like buffet places. I was in college. I needed a summer job. I was interning at the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office as part of my major. So when I was there, I was doing stuff I was really excited about. I felt really passionate about, that I really love. And I felt like this is what I want to do. That I needed, that didn't pay. The internship didn't pay. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do this as much as I could because I need to get a little bit. I treated summers as an opportunity to work and save money to have for when I went back to school each semester. So I got a job at Hometown Buffet. And my job was just to, you had all these, buffet tables. See, like, okay, we're running low on mashed potatoes. Pull that tray out, run into the back in the kitchen, find a new mashed potatoes, take the saran wrap off, run out, put it in the table. And that's all you're doing all day. Like your whole shift. It's just like, we need more mac and cheese. We need more green beans. That's all you're doing. That in itself, that's not bad. Like I applied for that job. It was whatever, just something. What was bad about it was there were two things. One, they were super cheap, where you're dealing with these like steaming, scalding hot trays, these metal trays. And right away, I did it like a few times, and it's like, I'm burning my hands. And I was like, I saw some people had gloves. I was like, where are the gloves? And this manager said, oh, we don't provide gloves. If you want gloves, you got to buy them yourself. We can sell you gloves. Okay, that's example number one. Like, if you don't want to burn your hands on the hot trays, we will sell you $7 gloves. Like, just, I'm an employee. Just give me the goddamn gloves. Okay, but that also indicated the larger problem, where the manager to runner ratio, like the people just running trays back and forth, was almost 1-to-1. And they were all these nimrods, lack of a better term, with little mustaches and big boxy glasses and ties and short sleeve button down shirts, standing out there with their pot bellies, watching the runners go back and forth. And as you went by, saying like, we need more meatloaf, get meatloaf. And then and that's all they were doing, is basically spotting where you're low and barking instructions at the people going by. And because there were so many managers, you'd be heading back and one of them would be like, meatloaf, we need the meatloaf, get meatloaf, Gary. I'm like, okay. And so you'd go back there and you'd grab meatloaf. As you're coming out, you'd run into Bob, this other manager, and be like, what are you doing with this meatloaf? We're still waiting on red potatoes. Granted, I may not have the demeanor for that sort of work. I cannot tell you how exasperating and infuriating. Like, how long can you listen to that? How long can you do that? It was so stupid. After a week and a half, I was like, I don't need money that bad. Like, I'll get by on my student loans. Fuck this. This job sucks. I'm burnt. I have blisters on my fingers. I'm being told, like, the carrots, where are the carrots? Like, no, this is so bad. So, like, after a week and a half, I was like, I love my internship. I could be doing more of my internship. I would rather go watch autopsies all day than run more fucking stuffing for, this idiot. Like, no. So I quit. And I remember just as the last little thing, they're like, after a week and a half, I've been working a week and a half, minimum wage. They're like, well, we have to do an exit interview. An exit interview? What are we going to talk about? I gave them both barrels in that interview, because it's not like, I don't care. What bridge am I burning? I told them everything I thought was fucked up about that place. That was the worst job ever. Best job I ever had, excluding current job, if we're saying had past tense. The one I had before my current was pretty good. I was working at Shutterfly, previously Tiny Prints. It was an online stationery company. I worked with a bunch of other creatives, and I really enjoyed that. The job itself, whatever, it was fine. I liked the people I worked with. So, let's see here. Do you like Lana Del Rey? All caps. I love Lana. I do. And I've told you this, Jim. I feel like Lana Del Rey and Jim Lujan have something in common. to me, they both make art about a Los Angeles that may or may not really exist. Like that's, I kind of, the thing is he's telling stories about the Los Angeles that happens behind a gas station or in the back of a little bar or in front of an agency. I think Lana Del Rey is telling stories about the same LA, the same kind of mythical LA, but the LA that exists for pretty girls on sunny days. You know what I mean? Okay. Let's see here. What deep, dark secrets from your past did you draw on to inform your portrayal of Dr. Hodges in The Full Fungus? By Jim Lujan, creator, writer, director, artist of The Full Fungus. I didn't have to draw anything. I was just my total normal self without the mask. I just totally pretended no one was watching, and I just behaved normal. What games are you currently playing? I'm not really playing any games right now. I've been kind of busy with the comic, and when I do sit and play a video game, I tend to default to nostalgia gaming. So I'll load up some old Nintendo game or just something to screw around with for a little bit and walk away. The last game I played through that I really liked was Shadow of the Ninja Reborn, which is kind of a remake of Shadow of the Ninja for the Nintendo, the old 8-bit Nintendo. Some of the nicest pixel art around. It's a really, really cool looking game. It's really, and it's fun. It's hard. It's real like Cuphead. It's friggin' hard, but good game. Really liked it. That's it, guys. Lots of questions. Thank you, everybody. Every time I start a Surveymonkey, there's this fear, like, what if I get like 3 questions? You know, what if I only get, but you guys came through. There were almost too many. Like I was really looking when I was putting together my PowerPoint, it's like, should I cut some of these anonymous ones maybe? But I didn't want to cut any. Though again, we didn't have time for portfolio. We'll go through my portfolio next time. But thank you. It was fun. It was fun to think about some of these questions. Let's see here. It's funny, Jim asked the exact same question and worded exactly the same way I did. Which one, about Lana Del Rey or Dr. Hodges? Let's see. The last era of gaming I bought was from the Wii era. I am a gamer. I generally have every console that's available. Maybe not like day one, but like I love video games. Yeah, Dr. Hodges. Yeah, it's just all me. It was very natural, actually. I slipped into it like a warm bath. All right, everybody. I think that's it. We're at 1 hour, 48 minutes. Where are we at? What's next time? I'm going to go back to work on page 3. And next stream will be, why is this showing me 2025? Way too soon. Okay. The next stream will be November 10th. Man. A few days after Election Day. We'll see. We'll see how it's going. Like I said, do what you can. Get out there. Get out there, especially if you're in a battleground state. Stakes are high. So anyway, but yeah, we'll be catching up after that. November 10th. I should be at that point. Let's see. if I'm on track, if there hasn't been anything derailing me, I will be working on page 5 of DvsM 2001. Let me just see where that puts me. Page 5 for trivia is, so if you've read DvsM, you know, sometimes the title is a little, it lags, it's a little delayed. It may not be on the very first page. You may see some things first, and then there'll be the appearance of the title. For DvsM 2001, page 5 is when the title is DvsM 2001 is seen for the first time in the book. So that'll be a nice little landmark. It's crazy. Because I do a page a week, the schedule is pretty predictable. And I know with reasonable accuracy, like I should be drawing this on this date. So something I will do is I'll go into my calendar, like, so I'm not spoiling anything in 2001, let's say for 79. Like, first time we see Opie, the dinosaur. First time we see whatever. First time, like, I'll mark that in my calendar, like, this is like when I'll be drawing. And doing that, it helps me because it's nice to see. I need those mini goals. The goal can't just be finishing the book because that's a long way off and that's a lot of work. I need, for example, in this case, like, okay, title reveal. Like that's page 5 weeks into drawing. Like I can see that horizon, like that's a spot on the horizon I can actually see. So I'm working toward that. I went and did that through my calendar and it's fun. It's helpful to me. It kind of keeps me like feeling like I'm making progress. It gives me things to look forward to. Like, oh boy, I get to draw that for the first time. Oh my God, that character is finally going to show up, like whatever. It also acquaints you with the scope of the challenge that you're taking on because you're filling in dates like, 7 months from now, 8 months from now, 12 months from now, saying like drawing this, drawing that. It really makes you realize like, well, this is my life now. Again, I've done it before. I'll do it again. But I'm fine. I'm fine with the grind. Like I've done it before. I do, of course, wish like I could share it faster. Like I wish. It's like I wish I could go faster, not for me, really. I mean, it's sort of for me, but like not for like, oh, so I won't have to draw as long. That's not it. I wish I could go faster so I could, like I have this story that I want to tell, that I want to tell it enough that I'm willing to spend about a year drawing it. Like, so there's a lot of it, like, I want to share this story. And that's what's tough. It's to be like, well, next year, that's tough. But anyway, it's going to happen. Let's see. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to shoot for 10 a.m. going forward, which should be made. And I'll try to stick to an hour so I'm clear of Jeremy. And I'm going to send a heartfelt apology to Jeremy for inadvertently counter-programming him. It's not cool. In fact, I saw Corey on Jeremy, I think last week, Jeremy's channel. Sounded a little weird. I saw Corey on Jeremy. I saw Corey on Jeremy's channel last week, and I had a lot of on Jeremy's channel envy. It's been a while since I've been on Jeremy's channel. I think I would like to pop up there sometime or have Jeremy over at my channel, whatever. But I'm going to try and start steering clear of where other people are. I'm just getting back to streaming. I got to get a sense of what the schedule is and what everyone's schedules are. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I will talk to you in a couple weeks. Get engaged. Do something. Send $10. Go volunteer, make a sign. Knock on a door if you're not socially awkward like me. Talk to the weird friend who's talking about Jill Stein. Nip that in the bud. This is coming from someone who voted for Nader. It's a waste. It is a waste. I'm not towing any party line. It's a waste. Do an intervention. Stop them. And people are like, both sides, man. They're the same. Intervention time. They're not the same. They're not. Okay. All right. Oh, let's see here. What's your level of road rage? I'm actually, I think, a pretty calm driver. Okay. I will talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Have a great rest of the day and good luck with your respective projects.